Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to, of course, acknowledge the Minister for Commerce, Tourism, Trade and Transportation, the Minister for Youth and Sports and Employment and Industrial Relations, and of course the Chair, and of course all the farmers who are here this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, I do not intend to make a long speech, but essentially to just simply reiterate the points that the Chair has made. Obviously, copra is an important industry for us. There are many people who have been dependent or have been farmers for generations in Fiji. Some have, of course, are no longer engaged in that particular sector. Government has been, through direct budgetary support, providing a certain level of income guaranteed through Fiji Copra. And of course, we have now also provided funding of the $700,000 that was allocated. $400,000 is for the guaranteed price and $300,000 is for the replanting efforts. Because as you can see, that the quality of the products, the raw materials coming in, had over a period of time deteriorated, so we needed new stock. Overall, we've been in Vanuatu since Wednesday. We've been down to the Fiji rice, I should say, food processors. And yesterday, the Minister was engaging with a number of stakeholders in the transportation sector, the Northern Development Plan, and of course the macro, small, medium enterprise loans that government had facilitated because of COVID-19. We also looked at a number of areas in Vanuatu, in particular around Lambasa area and the outskirts of Lambasa, and some of the outer rural areas where the issues of water, transportation of cane to the mill, and a number of other infrastructure issues were discussed. We had the CEO of Water Authority of Fiji, who's been here for 8 months and is doing a fantastic job in respect of that. And we, again, this morning met with a number of the stakeholders in the Savu commerce area, including the tourism operators. As you know that, and I think it would be, tried of me not to actually say this, but we have, of course, come to a situation where, because of COVID-19, our trade, a number of activities cross-border, has been affected. It has, of course, at the same time presented new opportunities where people are a lot more conscious, for example, of their health, a lot more conscious about living in a better environment, a lot more conscious about what they consume. And we, as a country, need to be able to look for opportunities in that respect. And we are doing a number of, policy initiatives that will drive us towards that particular area. And I'm quite happy to discuss this later on at the, the discussion session that we will have. We are very keen, of course, that Fiji Copra participates with the local communities, and as we've seen today, we'll be working or giving certificates to the youth groups. These sorts of outsourcing by companies such as this is critically important. But what is also important, just to make an observation, that the quality of the products needs to be, consistent. Because if you are in particular going to export this produce, the final product, the quality needs to be consistent, because otherwise you lose the market. We are also recognizing, of course, all the farmers here, and those who have been copra farmers for quite some time, and quite happy to, of course, ensure that this acknowledgement continues to take place. So, ladies and gentlemen, with those few words, I'd like to reiterate our support for Fiji Copra. The whole branding exercise was critically important, because Fiji has a good brand in the international fora. When you say the word Fiji or Fijian, it conjures up very positive images of, not just a country that has a very deep-seated presence in the climate change space, but also in respect of environmentally friendly, pristine area. So we need to be able to take advantage of that. I'd like to thank once again the chairman of the board, who's brought a lot of energy to this particular company, and numerous other companies that sits on the board, and all the other people who have been involved. Milaka, thank you very much. There you go, ladies and gentlemen, this is soap. Please buy one after this. It's very important. Probably should give a bit more detail on this. As you know that as a result, essentially, of our border shutting down, there's about 125,000 people initially were impacted upon. because of the tourism sector essentially coming to a standstill. And we have a number of people who are now completely unemployed, and a number of people, of course, who are now working lesser hours. We had announced a number of assistance schemes, both in the COVID budget response that we had, but also the subsequent budget that we delivered for the financial year of August till July of next year. We have announced a $100 million unemployment allocation, in which, or through which I should say, $5 million is set aside for retraining people, because there are some people, for example, who may want to move out of their various professions where they no longer have employed, they want to reskill themselves or upskill themselves, and we'll be providing those different courses through the Fiji National University. But the $95 million, the balance, is actually given as unemployment benefits. So people are allowed to take out their excess, I should say, the general account from FNPF, and they get $220 a fortnight for those people who have lost their jobs as a result of COVID-19. And should they then exhaust their funds into the general account, then the government supplements the 220. And for a number of people now on a weekly basis, we are seeing that more and more people are getting the 220 directly from the budget allocation that we've made. We also continuously thinking of new ways of creating employment. And one of the ways that we announced recently, initiatives we announced a couple of weeks ago, that we have said that if any employer hires any new staff, not by firing somebody else and then taking on new staff, but any new staff, we will pay their minimum wage of $268 an hour. Government will do that. You have to apply through the Ministry of Economy. They carry out the various checks, for example, that you paid your taxes, you're up to date with the FNPF contributions, and if you get approved, then government will pay $268 an hour for the person you're going to employ for the next 3 months. What you have to do is you have to pay the FNPF contribution, which is now 5%, and any additional funding that's required should the minimum wage in that particular area of employment be something else. So I'll give you a case in point. If Copra Millers is going to hire, or Fiji Copra I should say, is going to hire, say, 50 people to come and cut grass over here, the minimum wage for that is $268. So if they hire them, so they'll do the hiring, they'll do the firing, we'll pay 1 month's salary or wages for $268. So if they say we're going to hire 50 people, we'll pay for 50 people 1 month in advance. What they'll have to do is they'll have to pay the FNPF 5% contribution, and should they need cane knives or gloves or whatever, they have to provide all of that. So nothing actually really comes out of their pocket except the FNPF contribution. However, should they, for example, employ people where the minimum wage is higher than $268? I'll give you an example. We had, through this job support scheme, which we just announced on Tuesday, 600 new jobs have been created. So, those of you may have heard the supermarket chain, New World. They came along and they said, we're going to hire 150 people under this scheme. And assuming they want to hire 20 people who will work at the cash register. The minimum wage for people who work at cash register is not $268, it is $3.15. So they will pay the difference between $268 and $3.15 from their pocket, and they'll pay the 5% FNPF. We'll give the $268. So I urge all the business people who are here, and those of you large and small, you can use this initiative. The advertisement is again coming out tomorrow, and please look at that. Apply through the Ministry of Economy, and the disbursement of the funds will come through the Fiji Revenue and Customs Services. So that's the initiative we have. And of course, Fiji Coconut Millers had also similarly put up their hand, and they're going to hire 30 people under this scheme. And they'll be advertising. And when they advertise for these jobs, they will advertise and say that these are the jobs under the new job support scheme. So we have actually a certificate of recognition for all the employers who have actually participated in this scheme. It's of course creating new jobs. It's also, in a way, showing corporate social responsibility. I'd like to congratulate them for that. Please put your hands together for them. Thank you.